Okay, now that we've learned how to solve systems, our last um, topic in this lecture is how do we use those systems? They're in applications. And applications are word problems, everybody's favorite, but they're not so bad. We basically have 3 steps in the process. First of all, if we're going to use a system, we have to find 2 variables. That we're trying to find in the problem. And if there are 2 variables, I need to find 2 equations relating those variables. Okay? And the last step is to solve the system. Okay? And I'm going to show you one example of the first type of problem, but this is really very similar. The concentration problems and these interest problems, they're really very similar problems in that they're talking about 2 separate things. All right, so Steve had $25,000 and he's investing that and he earned $1,260, and the question is how much did he invest in each account? Okay, so there are 2 things that we look at when we think of our 2 variables and our 2 equations. Let's let X be the amount invested at 4%. And Y equals the amount invested at 6%. Okay, you might say, why didn't he just put everything into the 6% account? Because that's riskier. So he decided he was going to diversify. Okay, so how much did he invest at each? Okay, now I have to find 2 equations. And they're based on 2 things. What do we know? We know, first of all, how much he invested in total, which is $25,000. So our first equation is going to be based on the amount that was invested. And we know that he invested a total of $25,000. And where does that come from? The amount at 12% or 4% plus the amount at 6%. So that's just X plus Y equals 25,000. That is a strict amount of money invested, and it came from those 2 accounts. Right. The second equation, though, comes from value, which in this case is the interest earned. In some problems, it will be the concentration of an acid or something like that. But it's what the return on his investment is. What is the value of what he invested? Now, what does it mean to say that he invested at 4% interest? That means, as we've seen before with compound interest, that means that he invested at 4% of whatever his principal was. And we're assuming that this is compounded once in that year. Okay? So from the 4% account, he earned 4% of the total amount, which was X. Okay? And that would be 0.04 times X. The rate times the amount. Okay? In the account that earns 6%, it's 6% of Y, because that's how much he invested in that account. And what do I know about that? I know that at the end of the year, from that interest, he earned $1,260. So 0.04x plus 0.06y equals $1,260. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like to work with decimals, so I'm going to multiply the whole equation by 100. Each term, and what will that give me? 4x plus 6y equals 12,060, and adding 2 more zeros, 126,000. Okay, so now I have a system of equations. X plus y equals 25,000. 4x plus 6y equals 126,000. Okay, does that make sense? All right, and so how will I solve that? Let's use substitution. How about if we say y, no, let's make x, because then we'll just be multiplying by 4. That'll be easier. Let's make x equal 25,000 minus y. And I'm doing that strictly on the fact that I know I'm going to have to multiply by 4, and so that's easier than multiplying by 6. So, using the second equation and substituting, I get the following. Okay, does that make sense? And so what do I get? 4 times 25, that's 100,000, minus 4y plus 6y equals 126,000. All right, so combining those, that's going to be just 2y equals, bring that over to the other side, and you'll just get 26,000. So y equals 13,000. And then x, remember, was 25,000 minus y, so it's 25,000 minus 13,000 equals 12,000. Okay. Now let's check it. Okay. And we can check in our original account just to make sure we didn't make a mistake in multiplying. Okay, so let's see if that works. 0.04 times 12,000 plus 0.06 times 13,000. Okay, that would be the interest earned if that, or those are our values for x and y. That equals, let's see, 12 times 8 we know is 48, and we're multiplying by 0.04, so it would be 48,000, but we're removing 2 zeros, so it will be 480. And 6 times 13 is what? 6 threes are 18, 78,000, and again we're taking away 2 zeros, so it's 780. Okay, and if I add those two together, let's see, I get 1260. So it checks. So how much should he invest? $12,000 at 4%, $13,000 at 6%. Okay? Now, just to summarize, we chose our two quantities, the amount at 4%, the amount at 6%. We got two equations. One was the total amount invested, which is 25,000. That's a simple addition. And then the value is where we multiply to get the interest earned in that year, which was 1260. Got our system, solved it, and checked, and sure enough it worked. Okay.